No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you.
Good morning, Unity Renaissance. Let's stand for our song, please. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Rise up, rise up, rise up this morning. Rise up and sing. Love is alive in our hearts, in our lives today. One more time, now that you know it. Rise up this morning. Rise up and say, love is alive in our hearts, in our lives today. I can feel it, spirits in this place. I can see it shining on each face. Rise up this morning. Rise up and say, love is alive in our hearts, in our lives today. Here for each other, the way it's supposed to be. Sisters and brothers, one great family. Rise it up now. Rise up this morning. Rise up and say, love is alive everywhere in the world today. All right, let's hear it. Rise up this morning. Rise up and say, love is alive everywhere in my life, everywhere in the world, every face in this place. Love is alive.
Yes, it is. Woo! Feeling that great energy. Good morning, everyone. Hey, big welcome back to the Unity Renaissance Singers. Woohoo! What a great way to start our service. Don't you love that new song? That is a really, really great new song. Welcome to those of you who are watching online. We are feeling your presence with us here this morning and glad you chose to spend some time with us. Here at Unity Renaissance, we've just finished a really fabulous SEE week, Spiritual Education and Enrichment Week, filled with some wonderful classes, great instructors. I do see her here. I want to give a special shout out to our Adult Education Director, Cindy Mills, sitting right over there. Stand up, Cindy. Stand up. Really, I think this was my favorite SEE week ever. And as the Adult Ed Director, of course, Cindy sort of lives and breathes this for many weeks at a time. So we're just really grateful to you for your great coordination and spirit. I also want to give a shout out to Paul Mitchum, who worked double duty all this last week as our business manager and our sound manager, sitting right there. You'll be seeing him in just a minute. But thanks to Paul, we were able to offer some of the classes online. That's the first time we've done that. So we had a few participants from around the country, which is just really, really exciting. So thank you to everyone involved in that. A really great celebration of spiritual education. Well, Unity is a positive path for spiritual living. We follow the teachings and the example of our way shower, Jesus, in seeking to more fully love ourselves, love God, and love one another. And here at Unity, from that beautiful consciousness of love, we honor all paths to God, all names for God, and all expressions of God. And each and every one of you beautiful souls, looking so radiant this morning, each and every one of you is an expression of God. How cool is that? And we know that when we really realize that about ourselves, when we know indeed that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, we connect with that divine light within us and we behold it in one another, that beautiful light just grows and grows, and it shines out ever more brightly to light up the world. Our vision at Unity Renaissance is, together, a spiritually awakened world living in peace, love, and joy. And we are manifesting that vision through our mission, which is, together, we transform lives that transform the world. Yes, we do. Let's begin our time of transformation this morning in prayer. I invite you to close your eyes, breathing in deeply, just filling your lungs with the beautiful energy of spirit. Release and let go. We know that each of us is here this morning by divine appointment. Each of us in our own way got that little nudge from Spirit, or perhaps a good friend or family member, to be here today, and we said yes. And so we're just grateful that we honored that call. We know that as we come together this morning that we are wide open and ready for new insights, new guidance, new support, and a great sense of love and connection. And so we bless this wonderful service today, all the words of wisdom, all the beautiful music, all the ways in which our hearts are touched. And we truly know that we are one. And for this and all that flows from it, we are grateful. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. Well, I'm delighted to share that we have a guest speaker today. Really one of my favorites of kind of the up-and-coming ministers in the Unity movement. His name is Reverend Ogun Holder. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. Reverend Ogun was ordained in 2011, so he graduated 2 years before me from seminary, so I know him a little bit from that time period. He served as associate minister at Unity of Gaithersburg in Maryland, and for the past 5 years he's been serving as senior minister up there at Unity on the River in Amesbury, Massachusetts. So he's come a long way to be with us. That's about an hour or so north of Boston, from what I hear. Reverend Ogun has a following not only in his church, but beyond the church walls. He's been a bit of a pioneer in terms of getting the word out about the Unity movement in new ways to reach younger folks and to help them discover what we're all about. He has a podcast that you can find on your favorite podcast app. I know you all have podcast apps, right? Sure. So, and if you don't, you should get one and check this out. So he has a podcast called Pub Theology Live. Ogun is also the author of a book called Rants to Revelations. It's a really fun book, but also very insightful. You can get that on Amazon, or you can get it at unity.org and other booksellers. And just for more information in general about him, go to ogunholder.com. And so with that, I invite you to join me in giving a warm Unity Renaissance welcome to Reverend Ogun Holder.
Oh, come on, let's give him a standing ovation. That way we're... And then stay standing for our next song.
And the seas parted. I invite you to join me now in our divinity salute as we turn to greet our neighbor with a bow, a handshake, or a hug. Together, the divine in me greets the divine in you, and we serve and celebrate together for the glory of God.
Time, let's hear him. I'm thankful, so grateful. I am one in the spirit all around me. I'm thankful, so grateful. I trust in God. I trust in God. I trust in God. I trust in God.
That was wonderful. Let's hear it one more time for the UR singers. Nick Hill, Richard Mekdeci. What a wonderful blessing. Thank you so much. Good morning. I'm Paul Mitchum, and I'll be your platform host for today. And just like you, I was born of flesh and of spirit. And that spirit allows me to love you and to have faith. And today's word is healing. That spirit also, with my flesh, makes me whole. As you can see, our word for today is from wholeness, I'm healed. And that sounds good, but when you're actually dealing with something that's in your body. Like recently I had to go to the emergency room, and so I go through my thought process then is, I believe I can be healed if I get to the emergency room on time, and if they have the right drugs, and the doctors are competent, and if, I believe I will be healed if. So what's your if as you're going through the healing process? Sometimes in that process you go right off the scale and there are no more ifs. Like in the case of Myrtle Fillmore, when they told her, we have nothing for you. And then you're just down to the first part of that statement, I believe I will be healed. And faith then heals you. And does faith healing work? Some people think so, some not. Any rate, let's go on to our affirmation this morning. Please join me in reading today's affirmation. I affirm wholeness and I am healed. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke tell the story of a woman who believed she would be healed if she could just touch the hem of Jesus' cloak. Wow. The woman, according to the story, had been ill for 12 years. Seeing her, Jesus said, "Take heart, daughter. Your faith has made you well." The woman's faith allowed wholeness to shine through her illness. She was healed. As an emanation of God, wholeness is my birthright. Wholeness maintains my body, my mind, and emotions in perfect balance. I release any belief in illness, lack, or limitation, and focus my faith on the wholeness that has always been present. I affirm wholeness and I am healed. Today's scripture is from Matthew, the 22nd verse. And I will, 9th chapter, 22nd verse, and I'll read King James Version. But Jesus turned about him, and when he saw her, he said, "Daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith hath made thee whole." And the woman was made whole from that hour. So we have prayer chaplains to meet your prayer needs, and you can find the prayer chaplains in the chapel, which is across the narthex, and they can be there for your prayers of triumph and celebration, and also your prayers of challenge. So I'd like the prayer chaplains to stand up. Debbie's our prayer chaplain today, and please join her. And Shelley also back there, wonderful prayer chaplains. Please join them, and let's all stand together for the singing of the Lord's Prayer.
Holy Creator, we praise your name, your will in heaven and earth the same. Supply our needs, Lord, from day to day. Let your forgiveness light our way. Lead us away from temptation's hold. Deliver us, Lord, into your fold. For all the kingdom, power, and praise, with you began and with you stays. Holy Creator, we praise your name.
Thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.
Power and praise, with you began and with you stays. Amen. Amen. Good morning. It's good to be with you again. I was here about 6-7 years ago, so this is a little bit of a reunion for me. We had a really good week. I was one of the teachers here during SCE week. I love teaching metaphysics. I love teaching Bible. In classes, SCE classes, or just regular classes, this is where we really dig into some of the deeper stuff that you might only briefly hear on Sunday morning. So if you're not signed up for classes, I highly encourage you to get the good work done. And it's led to this morning, where I also love to do the thing I enjoy the most, which is stir up trouble and then leave town so that Reverend Paula has to clean it up. So if you have any issues with anything I say today, you know where to find her. Her office is just down the hall. Today is also a very special day. My firstborn and only born child, her name is Joy, she turns 19 years old today. She's actually here with the YOUers because as I came to find out, this is like her church away from church. When I told her that I was coming here, she was like, "Ooh, can I come?" And here I was thinking, she was all excited to come hear Dad speak. She was like, "Nah, that's where my friends go to church. I want to come see my friends." It had nothing to do with me at all. But about 3 weeks ago, I took her to college for the first time. She's in Chicago. And since I've taken her, the number one question I get is, "How you doing? Are you okay? How you hanging in there?" I'm doing great. People don't understand, for the last 19 years of my life, I've been actively engaged in making sure this child lives, survives, and thrives. I'm off the clock, baby. I've not stopped being her parent. I've just switched from active to advisory capacity. Hey, there she is. Hey. Happy birthday, baby. She was all like, I was just trying to sneak in the back, and it's called Parents' Revenge. Anyways, so I'm doing great. I'm now in parental advisory capacity. I've gotten her this far. Everything up after this it's on her, not me. But I'm also thrilled because she's in a city that she loves. She's a city girl, Chicago. I love Chicago. She's doing the thing she loves and is passionate about since she was like 2-3 years old. She's a dance major, so she's doing that too. She's going to make the thing that she's passionate about her life. Plus, the other thing that I'm extremely proud of is got her this far. She's not been arrested, not any drug issues, no pregnancies, nothing. Check the boxes. She's done good. We've both done good. So as we were taking her over, we were in the car, and I'm thinking that this is going to be an opportunity for me to impart some, seeds and pearls of wisdom from my college years and all that kind of stuff. You know the old saying, how do you make God laugh? You tell your plans. And all of a sudden, we have a moment where Joy turns to me and says, and part of my French, but I got to use exact words so you get the enormity of and just the randomness of what happens. She turns to me and says, "Oh, by the way, that thing that you said about watching TV as a spiritual practice, I call bullshit on that." Yeah. Exactly. So let me back up a little bit. A couple of weeks before, I did at my church what I like to call Ask the Minister. Y'all do that here? Ask, okay. All right, Reverend Paula, it's coming your way now, because after I explain this, people are like, why don't we do that? So sorry to put that on you. But this is generally not an interactive experience here. I stand up here and talk, you sit down there and listen, and often I'm sure you hear things that maybe you struggle with during the week, but you don't have a chance to sit down and talk to Paula or call somebody. So what I do is I invite people, if there are questions, specific questions they have about things, write them, give them to me, and I will answer them on Sunday morning. And every once in a while, I actually get brave enough to take spontaneous questions from the congregation. That's a risky thing, because spontaneous Ogun don't always end well. Okay? So one day somebody was doing Ask a Minister. They said, what are the things that you specifically do as part of your spiritual practices to keep yourself centered and grounded? So, I went through some normal things like meditation and prayer and exercise, to keep the body fit and get the stress out of the body and so on. And then I also mentioned TV watching. I watch a lot of TV, y'all. I'm just going to put it out there. I mentioned TV watching. And then she decided to call me out on that. How is that a spiritual practice? So what I want to share with you today, one of the things I want to share with you today is how do we define what spiritual practice is? Usually when we think spiritual practice, we think things like meditation and prayer and, you're chanting and you're doing all this stuff that is overtly spiritual. But how I define spiritual practice is anything that allows us to know God more. Anything that allows us to know God more is a spiritual practice. And the number one way I think we know God more is to know ourselves more. Why is that? Because unity teaches that we are divine. The spark of the divine is within us, or Christ's nature. All that God is, the fullness of divine mind, all that God is fully present at each one of us, at the point of every single one of us. Our divinity, that's what unity teaches. So for me, if you want to know God more, you know yourself more. Plus, you've been with yourself longer than anybody else. Right? Yes. So know yourself more. How do you know yourself? Observe your thoughts. If you want to figure out what you truly believe, not what you say you believe, not what you think you believe, but what you truly believe, observe your thoughts. Your thoughts betray your beliefs. Your thoughts let you know if you're walking in faith or fear. Your thoughts let you know if you're walking in love or in lack. Observe your thoughts. And I hate to break this to you in case of revelation, you're never not thinking. If you stop thinking, you're probably brain dead. You're never not thinking. And one of the ways that you can really observe what you're thinking and truly what you believe, for me, is I watch a lot of TV. You don't have to buy it or not, it works for me. So I'm going to keep doing it. This is how we begin to transform our consciousness. This is our spiritual journey. Transformation of consciousness. We do it first by observing our thoughts. If you want to change your life, you change your thoughts. That's the crux of Unity's teaching. It begins with the thoughts. So one of the great spiritual practices that I've been engaged in for the past 19 years is parenting. How many parents in the room? If you're a parent, raise your hand. If you haven't realized it yet, parenting is a great spiritual practice. Or as it looks when it's not on Facebook. Right? Because your children know how to push your buttons. I got me an amen. Children know how to push your buttons, especially when you're tired. That's how I react when people who don't have kids tell me they're tired all the time. I'm like, y'all didn't know nothing yet. Please. I'm 45 years old, by the way, and my mother, she loves to push my buttons by saying, am I going to get more grandkids? And I was like, I just put one in college. You think I'm starting over now? I ain't got the energy for toddlers. Again, love them when somebody else takes them home too. They're not mine to look after. Everything is a spiritual practice because everything allows us to know ourselves more. When people push our buttons, get on our skin, get on our nerves, it too is a spiritual practice because it allows us to know ourselves more. You know who's a great button pusher? Jesus. We call him the way shower. He showed us the way to where we need to work on ourselves by pushing buttons. He was great, like our family members, at pushing the buttons of the people closest to him, the disciples. So there's a story, some of you know it, about when the disciples were in a boat and there was a storm raging and they were all scared and the boat was going to sink. And here comes Jesus, just traipsing across the water. And Peter saw it. And Peter's like, Lord, can I come out to you? And Jesus says yes. And Peter gets out of the boat and walks towards Jesus. And we always use this as an example of faith. At least Peter got out of the boat and he started walking. And he saw the waves and he started to sink. And Jesus reached out and took his hand and pulled him up. And one of the metaphysical interpretations of that is that when we take our eyes off our Christ center, our Christ nature, of the divine of us, and we see the things on the outside that make us afraid, that's when we start to go downhill. And that's a great metaphysical teaching. But I want to look at what Jesus said when Peter started to sink. He said, "O ye of little faith, why did you doubt?" In other words, modern day translation, pardon me to all the folks who took my Bible interpretation class, Jesus is basically saying, Peter, is that all you got? Like, I thought I taught you better than this. Jesus faith-shamed Peter. I know we want to put Jesus up on the pedestal and all that, but he had some weird ways of trying to motivate, I use air quotes, motivate his disciples. Here's another example. After he was resurrected and he was on the road to Emmaus, there's a story. Disciples are walking down the road, a couple of them, and Jesus, falls in line. He's walking with them, and they don't recognize him. And they're talking about the things that recently happened, his death, and they couldn't find the body. Was he resurrected? Was he not resurrected? Going into this story, and Jesus starts telling them things, and all of a sudden, their eyes were open, and they realized it was him. And Jesus said, and I quote, "Oh, how foolish you are, how slow of heart to believe." Modern day translation, "You big dummies, get with the program." Jesus insulted the disciples. And I'm sure their buttons were pushed. They're the 12 closest to him, and all he's doing is telling them how not well they're doing. It's giving me parental flashbacks to my own relationship with my mother. But that's another talk for another time. Jesus also got his buttons pushed as well and didn't always respond in the best ways. The best example of this is when he chased the money changers out of the temple. It was Passover time, and the custom was the people who came, they had to bring animals to sacrifice. And there was that certain temple currency they had to use, and if they didn't have that, they had these nefarious money changers who would cheat people and not give them fair exchanges. And they were turning this whole festival, this time of sacred connection and worship, into an excuse to make money. And Jesus was incensed with righteous anger, and he chased them out of the temple. But my favorite version of this story is from the book of John, which says, in the temple he found people selling cattle, sheep, and doves, and the money changers seated at the tables. Making a whip of cords, he drove all of them out of the temple. Making a whip of cords. In other words, he was so angry and he couldn't find anything to beat these people with, so he went and made something. So much for arts and crafts being a common activity. He braided a whip out of cords and then went and beat the people. Which reminds me of one of his greatest teachings, when one asked, what would Jesus do? Remind them that flipping tables is an option. Breaking out the whips too. It's an option. Use it sparingly, but it's an option. When people push our buttons, we have a couple choices. We can see it as an excuse to be angry, to be resentful, to hold a grudge. Some of us are really good at holding grudges. Some of us still holding grudges that we don't even remember why we don't like the person, but we still holding that grudge. Years and years and years. We have a choice. We can see it as that and live from a place of anger, from resentment. Or we can see it as an opportunity of healing. Because anytime that we respond from a place anything other than love, let me say it again, anytime we respond from a place that is anything other than love, that's the area in our life we need to do some healing. Love isn't there. Peace isn't there. And that's how I define healing. We like to interchange the words healing and curing a lot, especially when it comes to bodily illness. We use these two words interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. Healing is the idea of claiming or wholeness. I'm glad Paul read the Daily Word today. I was like, dude's giving my talk. What am I going to say now? But when we speak of wholeness, it means metaphysically we are claiming the perfect divine idea of who we are to be as a human being. It means we are making peace with. Because the perfect divine idea, that's all there is. Love, peace, joy. That's all there is. So if we are responding and feeling anything other than that, then we're not whole. We have not claimed and lived our wholeness. And there cannot be any physical curing unless there is a spiritual and metaphysical healing. As within, so without. It starts at the spiritual level. Everything is spiritual. It starts at the spiritual level. So we gotta make it right within ourselves. We have to do the work of the spiritual, metaphysical healing, making peace with, before we can expect anything else to change or to be cured. And let's be clear, sometimes the physical curing isn't going to happen. Might be a time constraint. Who knows? But the important thing is, once we have that spiritual and metaphysical healing, once we are at peace with whatever's going on within our body and outside of our body, then it don't matter what happened after that. We're at peace. We don't have any attachments to what happens. We have to make peace first within. So when people get under our skin or push our buttons, that's where the healing needs to take place. That's how we know to love ourselves. Loving ourselves is basically taking that divine idea of love that is God and turning it back in on ourselves. We love to love other people a lot more than we love to love ourselves. But all love begins here. We can only love another to the extent that we love ourselves. We have to turn that spiritual practice, that spiritual idea, that divine idea that is God, that is love, in on ourselves first. And then we can do it. Many of us try to avoid the button pushers. And we say, I'm not going to be in that person's or that situation's thing because that upsets the peace of my soul. And that ain't spiritual. So we use the tactic of avoidance. A lot of people in Unity don't watch the news because of that. Because there's a certain president sometimes that every time some of us see him, buttons we didn't even know we had getting pushed. And I say no. I say no. I say you watch, you listen. You find out where the place in you that is being stoked with that righteous anger is. Make peace with it. And then be in action in this world. Be in action. But when you go through that process, you know you're coming from peace and love, not coming from anger and vindictiveness and resentfulness. You got to walk your walk, folks. Faith without works is dead. But where those works coming from? Are they coming from anger and resentment? Are they coming from peace and love? You're on a mission to transform the world. Transform yourselves. It doesn't stop with the inner transformation. People ask me when I tell them, what do you do for a living? I'm a Unity minister. Oh, Unity, is that like Unitarian? No, not quite. Well, what's the difference? I said, basically the same philosophy. Unitarians tend to be much more in action, doing a lot of social justice things. Unity people, we tend to think a lot about action and social justice. Yes, I'm calling us out. Guilty as charged. Okay? But we're both in the right place. It starts here with the inner transformation, the being at peace with, the healing of the anger and the resentments. Some of us are still not healed with our past. Some of us are still struggling with things that happened in the past. Whether we think it was done to us, whether it really was done to us. Part of why I'm originally from Barbados. And I left when I was 20 or so to come to university. I actually went to Shenandoah University in Winchester. And when I was there, my world got turned upside down. My spiritual world, for one. I grew up in a very, think Pentecostal type evangelical, traditional, fire and brimstone, laying on of hands, speaking in tongues, all that sort of stuff. And then when I was in college, even though I wasn't a religion major, I took a class, a Bible class. And for the first time, I found out the truth about the Bible. Not just what was in it, but about the book itself, how it was put together, who wrote it, who didn't write it. Blew my mind to find out Matthew didn't write Matthew. Blew my mind to realize, wait, the world wasn't literally created in 6 days? So there was a lot of spiritual crisis going on because up until then, I had built my entire world around this idea that the literal Bible was the inerrant word of God. That was what I was taught. That's what I was brought up believing. And now you're telling me it's not? By the way, if you go through life and you don't have at least 2 or 3 good spiritual crises, you're not doing it right. Okay? Spiritual crisis occurs when you realize the way you've always been thinking, believing, and showing up in the world isn't working anymore because you know there's more out there and in there, and there's some discontent, to put it mildly. That's spiritual crisis. That's the beginning of the next highest evolution of who you are. So don't shy away from a spiritual crisis. Invite it in. So I had that. And I was very angry, very angry. I felt I was betrayed. I felt I was lied to. And I avoided going home for a while. And even when I go home, I didn't go to my home church and speak to my former minister, and my mom continues to still poke the bear about unity and its beliefs and how it relates to what she brought up, and now we're in a better place, but it was rough for a while. But because I've done the work to make peace with the past, to stop wishing it had happened differently, which is one of my new favorite definitions of forgiveness, by the way. Forgiveness, releasing the desire for a different past. I think it was Bishop Desmond Tutu who said that. Releasing the desire for a different past, that's forgiveness. As he was leading the way in doing reconciliation work around apartheid in South Africa. Releasing the desire for a different past. So now when I go home, and my mom walks up to me with a t-shirt on that says, "Love God, love each other, beat the devil." And she says, "What do you think of my shirt?" 10 years ago, I'd have gone into some big, deep theological discussion with her. Now I just go, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And I keep walking. I'm at peace with who I am and who she is. This is how we transform ourselves. This is how we transform the world, by making peace with, by doing that healing. Because I'd made healing and made peace with the past, this summer I can go home and do something amazing. By the way, if you truly want to do some miraculous things in your life, you start with the healing. You make peace with yourself. And opportunities will present themselves. In Barbados, the LGBT community is not in a good place. Laws against homosexuality are still on the books. Forget about same-sex marriage. Last year, Barbados had its very first Pride Parade ever. And this year, when they had the second parade, they invited me down and asked me to create what we think might have been the first ever church service that was intentionally open and welcoming to the LGBTQ community. Because the biggest opposition to the LGBTQ community in Barbados is the churches. And of course, when the invitation first came, the buttons, because Harry was thinking I was healed, and suddenly some of that anxiety started coming back up, and it's like, oh yeah, I still got some work to do around that, which I did, so I could go down to my home country and stand in this pride parade and challenge the Christians in Barbados to live out the creed that Jesus instructed us to do, which is love the Lord God with your whole heart and soul, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. I challenged them to show me in the Bible where Jesus spoke out against homosexuality. There have been 2 letters to the editor in the local paper just reaming my name since then. I'm trying to write a rebuttal. I had to call them and say, listen, I don't mind people saying stuff, but you're calling out my name now, so I got to say something. So hopefully they'll print it. I'll keep you posted on that. But for me to go after the upbringing that I had, where I was once one who spoke out against homosexuality, where I was one who once told people that were gay and bisexual and trans that you were choosing a life of sin, to go there and be a voice and an advocate for love and for acceptance could not have happened without being at peace with who I am, who I was, and this great work, this great teaching that unity is. This is what happens when we do the true work of healing, the true work of transformation, the true work of looking at ourselves. And all the people in your life, all the family members that constantly push your buttons are showing you where you need to do your healing work. And when they do this, the only thing you ever have to say to them is thank you. Thank you for showing me where I still need to do the work. Thank you. Thank you. So this is my invitation to you this week. Notice when your thoughts, your words, your actions, or anything less than loving, especially when it's been instigated by someone else, that tells you where you still need to do some healing. That tells you where you need to claim your wholeness. And it's an opportunity for you to show up as the divine. Let's take this into a little time of meditation. So I invite you to gently close the eyes. Plant both feet on the floor and take a few deep breaths. Allow all your thoughts, your attention, your focus to follow the breath as it enters and leaves the body. Observe the pauses between. Just breathe. And as you breathe, let us center in the gratitude for everything that comes up in our life. Every single thing that comes up in our life is an opportunity for healing, an opportunity for us to be at peace with ourselves, an opportunity for us to claim wholeness, an opportunity for us to live as love. I invite you to embrace the truth that everything that shows up in my life is an opportunity for me to show up as God. Everything that shows up in my life is an opportunity for me to show up as God, as love, as peace, as oneness, wholeness. We say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity for us to claim, I am whole, I am healed. I am whole, and I am healed. So let us hold that information in our hearts for a few moments in the silence. I am whole, I am healed. I am whole, I am healed. We hold this truth for ourselves and for all others in our lives. And may we all remember everything that shows up is an opportunity for us to show up as God. And so it is.
Flow, Spirit, flow through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding peace. Show, Spirit, show through me as I open up to be an expression of your unfolding love.
Hey, let's take a moment to give some love and appreciation to Reverend Ogun Holder. Yes. Way to bring it, brother. Way to tell it. This is the time in our service for the sharing of our love offering. I invite you to connect with that place of gratitude within you as you give generously in support of this spiritual community. And just a reminder, if you would like to give via your smartphone, you may do so by texting the word GIVE to get started to the number
540-418-1228. Text now.
That's right. And so if you give via your text, your smartphone, when the basket comes around, just wave your phone over the basket to give it a little extra blessing there. With ushers, please come forward. I invite you to join me now as you hold your offering in your hand. Join me in our offertory blessing. Together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
Shaking together, running over, back in good measure, it's giving back to you.
Way to go. Nick Hill, new choir director. Wonderful. Unity Renaissance singers. Awesome stuff. Let's take a moment to turn to gratitude within, feeling the many blessings of this day, feeling this beautiful energy moving in and through us, connecting us. We're so grateful for these gifts so generously shared from the heart. We send them forth to do God's work in the world now, through and as us. With such gratitude. Thank you, God. So it is. Amen. Thanks. This is the time in our service when we welcome those who are new to Unity Renaissance. If you're here today for the first, second, or third time, we invite you to raise your hand nice and high, holding up the appropriate number of fingers, 1, 2, or 3. Great. 1, 2, or 3.
There's a
Welcome.
2 1s and a 2.
In any event, if you're here today for the first time, look in that bag. There's a little card. Fill it out. Take it into the bookstore, and you get a free CD, a copy of a previous service. Your second visit here, you get 2 CDs. One is of positive, uplifting music from Power Music and Arts. The other is Sacred Unity Prayers and Recordings. On your third visit here, you get a copy of our daily devotional, The Daily Word. So it's great to have you with us. We look forward to seeing you over and over again. That's great. Welcome.
Welcome. Well, whether it's your first time here or your 88th time here, we invite you to become a member of Unity Renaissance. And the way you do that is you go to a class called the Path to Discovery class. It's a 2-hour class. It's all about unity. You learn about unity, and after that you can become a member. A member allows you to vote on all the important issues we have as a congregation. Also gives you 10% discount in the store, in our wonderful bookstore here. You can sign up on the hall wall. There are many choices starting in April, many time choices for the class. October. The wrong time of the year. October. So please sign up on the hall wall, and please join us and become a member here at Unity.
We have a new group starting up here. It'll be a singles group, and it's going to be convened by, raise your hand there, General Elizabeth Baxter is taking charge of that. We're excited about that. We're going to have a brainstorming meeting next Sunday after the second service around 12:30 or so. So please come and share your ideas and enthusiasm, and let's create this new group together. Thanks for taking the lead on that, General Elizabeth.
It's time again for our next round of spiritual discovery groups. Spiritual discovery groups are a way to get together and have fellowship with other congregants and other people who are interested. And they're studying a book called Sabbath.
Finding rest,
Finding
renewal,
rest,
and
renewal,
delight in our busy
in
lives.
our busy lives.
My
Thank
far
you very
sight
much.
is excellent.
And
Near
you may have noticed some tables out front. That's where the sign-ups are occurring today. So please see someone at the table out front and sign up for a spiritual discovery group. It's really rewarding. It's great, and you'll really enjoy it. It's a great book and a great
Great practices within it. There'll be about 6 of those groups, and they meet at congregants' homes or here at church at different times during the week, so you can easily find a group that meets at the time and day that works best for you. We have a new a new class coming up. Our wonderful Tom Baker is going to lead a class on Destiny of Souls. It's a great book. It's really about what happens after death. I mean, it's about the souls carrying on after our physical death, and what happens between lives as well. This is a subject that Tom is super passionate about. He's really excited to share this class because he feels like we as a society, the number one fear, or one of the number one fears, is around death. And he wants most of all for people to lose their fear of that and to be able to live in peace, as Ogun was talking about today, to be healed and to feel in peace and joy. So that will be in Monday nights in October, starting on October the 7th. It'll be at 7 p.m. right here at Unity Renaissance. We may think about offering that online as well. What do you think, Paul?
Yes, I think that's a great idea.
It's happening just as of this moment.
Yeah.
It's really great. You can sign up on the hall wall for that. It's going to be a really great class. With that, I would like to invite Curtis Jones to come up and share a spotlight announcement with us.
Thank you. Hi, how's everybody doing? Sorry about that. So as she said, my name is Curtis, and if you don't mind, I'd like to share with you guys a little bit about my experience with depression. Is that okay? Yes. Okay, cool. So although I had previously been very social and incredibly successful as an athlete in Virginia, I was second in the state in track, and I was the prom king of my school. A lot of these things don't mean anything to us anymore after we grow up and leave home, but I tell you these things to let you know that I was a very social person and very outgoing. But when I left to go to JMU, over 20 years ago, I left to go to JMU to start my studies there. I sank into what would be a 9-year depression, 9 years. And the beginning of that, what happened was it stripped away my identity, it stripped away some of my lifelong friendships, and it also stripped away even my ability to communicate. Like, I was so depressed that I couldn't even talk. And so the first 3 years were so deep, dark, and debilitating that my dad actually asked me if he needed to put me into a psychiatric home. And that was a devastating experience for me, but because of that and through that experience, I received some coaching and also some spiritual counseling that radically transformed how I relate to myself and how I relate to my experiences. And through that experience and probably about 15 years of researching not only how to free myself from the depression, but also how to make sure that I never go back to that dark place ever again, that depression has become one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my life. And through that experience, I mean, not only have I learned how to coach myself out of it, but I've also been able to sit with hundreds of people and help them to overcome similar hardships that they've been facing in their lives. And so this year marks 12 years of being free from that 9-year depression that I went through. So this past summer, I finished writing a novel, my first novel on overcoming depression. And after I published it, I brought it up and I gave it to Paula, let her have a look at it. She asked me what was it about, and she asked me if the main character's depression in the book was something that I learned from personal experience. And we actually had a moment where we were actually sharing our experience, our mutual experiences of what we've been through with depression. And in that time, after that, she said to me, she said that how committed she was to absolutely overcoming what she calls the epidemic of depression. She said, I'm committed to overcoming this epidemic of depression. And would you like to come up here and do a workshop here where you can actually share some of the tools that you've used to overcome depression? And so that workshop is going to be on October 10th October 12th. Everybody can see it. There you go. Sorry about that. From 10 to noon type thing. Everybody will get, everybody who comes will get my new book. And also, if you've ever experienced depression or you know people that have, please come on out. We're going to learn and grow together. Okay? Thank you.
Wow, that's great. Thank you so much.
One of my favorite events of the year is coming up on Saturday, October the 5th. It's our annual pet blessing. How many have been to a pet blessing here before? It's really great, isn't it? Isn't it sweet? So it's at 10 a.m. in the morning, or 10 in the morning. You can bring your pet. If you do bring your pet, please bring it on a leash or in a carrier. If your pet is not conducive to being brought here, like if it's a horse, or if it's a snake.
A lion?
Or a lion, yeah. Anyway, or if your pet has passed away, you can bring a picture of it. And we have a really lovely blessing table. It's a sweet service, individual blessings for each animal there. And then each of you pet owners gets an opportunity, if you want, to get up and speak about what your pet means to you. So it's just really heart-filling, really lovely time together. So mark your calendars, plan to join us for that. One other quick announcement. We have an opportunity we've been talking about the last couple Sundays for anyone here who's interested to tutor a child at either Thurgood Marshall Elementary School or over at Oscar Smith High School, which is where I've been tutoring for the past 3 years, going to pick it up again this 4th year. It is an incredibly fulfilling experience. It will totally change your life, and perhaps as important, if not more important, it will change their life. So if you're interested in tutoring, we have a training today at 12:30 with the wonderful Judy Hackman, who oversees this for us. So join us in probably, I'm going to guess, room 4 for just a little bit of a training at 12:30 or so today. Doesn't matter if you've signed up yet or not, but please listen to your own heart. And if you're feeling that tug, come and check out what it's all about. Thank you very much for that, Judy. Well, that's it for our announcements today. Great to be with you online as well as here in person. And so we'll say goodbye for now. We'll see you next week online. And with that, let's welcome in our children.